announcement of the death to find out their appraisal of the president he was, and here are some opinions or appraisals that she gathered for this newscast.
Has been confirmed and N'Djamena is mourning. Chadian President Idriss Deby Itno has died aged 68. His death was announced this April 20th, barely a day after his re-election for a sixth term of office after an over 30-year rule. As unexpected as the death of the president, army commander and field marshal is, so is the shock with which Africans at large received the news. To some, notably to the Western world, he was an autocrat and dictator. But to the Chadians, like this citizen based in Douala, Cameroon, Idriss Deby was a great leader who brought Chad to an era of growth and development.
C'est un homme fort, un homme courageux.
He is a strong and courageous man who led Chad through its misery and rendered it a country that everyone wants to know. At first, when we the Sahelian people were called Chadians, it angered us. But today, because of that man, we are proud to be called Chadians.
Cameroon, being a close friend and neighbor of Chad, shares this admiration for the fallen president, at least for some. Quite a good number of Douala city dwellers would live to remember Idriss Deby as a courageous leader who had the interest of his people and the continent at heart. To them, his death is a bitter pill to swallow.
An Africanist?
A very rare Africanist he was. His death touches us very deeply. I think the Chad of today owes him a lot. Africa too. He was a model of African president, and they are few.
Je suis pas content, il est un être humain autant que les autres. Mais il n'aurait pas parti au front.
I'm not happy about his death. He shouldn't have gone to the war front. He knew he could have died, yet he went, and I condemn him for that. He put down his role of president and took that of a soldier, and he was killed as a soldier.
Other Cameroonians express indifference to the fall of the Chadian president. They think it serves a lesson for other African leaders with a strong grip of power.
For the rest of his age group, they should know how to leave things before things leave them.
6 mandats, c'est trop.
6 mandates is too much. He was expected since he announced his candidacy. So his death means nothing to me.
Whatever the case, Idriss Deby Itno did not live to consume his victory, but he would certainly be remembered in Chad and beyond.
On to another death case. The mortal remains of Christian Cardinal Toumi have been commended to Mother Earth this Tuesday, April the 20th, 2021, in a funeral ceremony where the head of state was represented by Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Gute. The prelate was decorated posthumously, a funeral that saw the massive turnout of thousands of faithfuls from home and abroad, all highlighting the good life Cardinal Toumi lived. He was buried in the Cathedral of St. Peter and Paul this Tuesday in Douala. On to another sad news story. Cameroon's pioneer First Lady and widow of late President Amadou Ahijo is no more. Germain Ahijo died at the age of 68 after she suffered an illness, and she passed away today in Senegal, that is in the capital Dakar. Close family members say she passed away on the night of April the 19th, breaking the 20th, 2021. Joy Ngong with details.
The news of the demise of Germain Ahijo was confirmed by a family in the wee hours of today morning. Nurse by profession, the former First Lady has always maintained an acrimonious relationship with President Biya, her husband's successor. Germain has basically never come to terms with Biya occupying the post of President of the Republic of Cameroon. She was particularly furious over President Biya's refusal to lift the exile on her husband Amadou Ahijo and organize an official funeral ceremony for the former president. Amadou Ahijo had died on November 30, 1989 in Dakar, Senegal, where he was on exile. The children of the ex-presidential couple are, however, serving the Biya regime, with Muhammadu Bajika and Aminatu Ahijo all active members of the ruling party. Rumors regarding the death of Germain Ahijo had circulated in February. Social media publications have stipulated that she died on the 19th of February 2021 in Dakar, Senegal, after an illness. But the former First Lady was very much alive, as her family quickly debunked the rumors, releasing photos of her and her two daughters. The wife of the late President Amadou Ahijo passed on without seeing her earnest wish of her husband's corpse returned to Cameroon and for him to be given a proper burial worthy of the statesman that he was come true. Germain Ahijo Abiba begins her journey to eternity at the age of 87 in Dakar, Senegal, where her husband's remains have been kept since he passed on 32 years ago.
Now, with regards to COVID-19, many Cameroonians are still finding it hard to accept the fact that vaccination is a prerequisite, and they especially express doubt about the efficacy or even the need of a vaccine to fight this pandemic. For a psychological explanation of this phenomenon, our reporter Ate Bonaventure spoke to a psychologist, Dr. Mireille Njenje, who says a constant change of data accompanied with misinformation is the chief reason or the key reason for this way of thinking. Ate Bonaventure.
Fear of the unknown, ignorance, and misinformation on the efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccines are portrayed as possible reasons for the mass reticence in adhering to the national immunization program against the pandemic.
We just have about 1 year of that coronavirus, and it is very impressive to know that we already have a vaccine, and that so people are not sure with that vaccine. They don't know if they will really be protected, as they tell us that you have to take the vaccine, but you also continue to protect yourself, to observe all that barrier measures.
The peculiar nature of the disease and its variant form is also a confusing factor.
Everything changed with that coronavirus. Sometimes you have that variant, sometimes you have the other variant. The communication always change, and then people are not sure. They don't know what to think. They don't know what to believe. So I think our medical system has to stabilize the communication on that coronavirus before giving information to the population.
The clinical psychologists suggest a more holistic communication by public health authorities. Most Cameroonians on the complaining side say they prefer locally made natural medicines that have been tested and proven authentic in the prevention and cure of the dreaded pandemic.
Over to the northern regions of Cameroon, we move to Mbaimboum, which is a locality at the border towns of Garoua, and it has benefited from a border post by the Rapid Intervention Battalion. It was inaugurated yesterday in the presence of the National Bee Coordinator, General François Pelene. Equipped with high-quality material, the post is a response to the insecurity in the three-border area, putting the local economy in harm's way. The inauguration of this post demonstrates the commitment of the Rapid Intervention Battalion to kick outlaws outside Cameroon's borders. Let us now listen to one of the bee elements present at the inauguration ceremony.
Very unequivocal in his declaration today, when he declared that the construction of this base, it is a participatory approach of the state on Cameroon's border defense policy, which is a process of constructing 8 defense bases along the boundary, much of which has been done. And the one of Mbaimboum today is of real strategic importance, given that Mbaimboum it leans on 3 border frontier of Cameroon, Chad, and the Central African Republic. He also made mention of the importance of the border international market that was here. That doesn't really prosper today because of the security situation. And that this base has been constructed to address all these defense challenges. I think he also added, and that is very important, that the base is constructed for the population and that the population has to use it for its own security by providing the necessary information for the forces deployed here to be able to defend their interests. It's also worthwhile to mention the address he made towards all the B soldiers that are deployed here, that they should serve the population and not serve themselves. This is very important, and those of us who are deployed here are going to do all in our capacity to make sure that these instructions are rigorously applied.
We now talk beauty, where we observe that several Cameroonian women or young ladies are now venturing into embracing the natural African hairdo, while many say it makes them look natural and prettier. Looking at it from a psychological approach, it may be a return to African values or natural African values. Ate Bonaventure takes a deeper look into the story.
Afro-natural hairstyle is gradually making its comeback in the African society. More ladies of the younger generation are adopting different styles and doing away with imported synthetic fiber.
It's last year that I decided to adopt this hair because first I'm African. I look beautiful with this hair. And the other hairstyle more expensive and for nothing.
Psychologists hold the view that the adverse effects of colonization and slavery alienated consciences for centuries. Thus, the need to return to lost values.
Women used to think that to be beautiful, to be pretty, they need to be as white women. So they try to become as that white women by imitating their hair, even the skin. And we can see now that that product coming from Europe and America and other countries out of Africa, that product really damage our hair, our African hair, because they are not adapted to our hair.
It drops and drapes and hangs loosely, but a black woman's hair rises by nature.
I love my natural hair because it makes me feel African. Artificial hair is not good because it's the natural. Analyzing the hair.
Just like African ladies, their hair is resilient and full of pride. Pride of a people, pride of a continent.
Now in news out of Cameroon, like you heard previously, Chad President Idriss Deby has been announced dead just few hours after winning last presidential elections in the country. However, the immediate cause of his death is still very much unclear. Over in the United States of America, the sentence of former police officer Derek Chauvin, who is accused of killing George Floyd same time last year, is still expected. Minneapolis is experiencing widespread protests at this moment prior to the announcement of his sentence. Let's have details of these stories in the following with Rogeyatu Buba.
Shortly after his re-election for a sixth term, Chadian President Idriss Deby has been announced dead, allegedly from injuries incurred during battles against rebel groups over the weekend. He won 79.32% of April 11's vote. Provisional results showed Monday, as after the army said it had killed 300 fighters, waging a rebel offensive launch on election day. The announcement of his death was done by the army spokesman in a broadcast on state television, surrounded by a group of military officers he referred to as the National Council of Transition. The circumstances of Deby's death could not immediately be independently confirmed due to the remote location. It was not known why the president would have visited the area or participating in ongoing clashes with the rebels who opposed his rule. The immediate cause of his death is still unclear. The turnout of the vote was 64.81%, which the outgoing head of state won surprisingly in the first round. Deby's former and last prime minister came second with 10.32% of votes cast, and the first woman to run in the presidential election came third with 3.16% of vote. The provisional results still need to be approved by the Supreme Court after it studies potential legal appeals. The jury in the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin over the murder of George Floyd has begun to consider its verdict, with the city of Minneapolis witnessing daily protests ahead of the court's decision. The court heard closing arguments on Monday, with a prosecutor summarizing the state's position that Chauvin used excessive force when he kept his knee on Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds last May. The defense lawyer pointed to the testimony of expert witnesses who said Chauvin, who is white, acted appropriately, adding that he died of drug abuse and heart problems. 45-year-old Chauvin faces charges of second and third-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. Government buildings and some stores fronts have boarded up their windows in anticipation of unrest after the verdict and closed early the night before the trial. National Guard troops have taken up positions along busy passage throughout the city.
That is what we gathered for you on tonight's edition of the news on DBS television. Thank you for your keen attention, and we do hope to see you when we return tomorrow, same time, for a fresh edition. Until then, good night and stay on DBS television.